Neymar, Belotti, Mendy and many others, including an absolute perler that I've wanted at Manchester United for a long time. And can you remember who it is from 12 months ago? It is Red Rumours. It is the United Stand special. We've got about 10 potential transfer targets, some of which I think will be potential that you've not even thought about. But let's get straight into it. It is the United Stand. It is Red Rumours, the most comprehensive transfer show for Manchester United. And we're going to start off with not the big one, we'll come to him next, but the man on my left, Andrea Belotti of Torino. Many of you have been mentioning him for a long time as a potential signing for Manchester United. The reason I've not mentioned him, and I will get into why I'd like us to sign him, is he's away from Italy. He's got a €100 million buyout clause, which roughly, with Brexit and everything, could work out to be about 70 to 80 million pounds sterling, which is a hell of a lot of money. However, let me tell you, he's been whacking the goals in all over the place. Well, he's been doing it only in Italy. I say all over the place. He's not been going off to Russia and scoring for Torino or anything like that. I don't think they were in Europe. Anyway, I'm joking. But he's been scoring a lot of goals for Torino. He's 23. I think he's well into his 23. He's not coming up for 24. I think he's 23 and a half. Fantastic player, scoring a lot of goals, but what sort of a player is he? Well, he's described as his manager as the first line of defence, because when he was in his formative years, he used to play as a winger. He can in fact play anywhere across the front three positions as an attacker, or he can play in behind the striker as well. But he's that first line of defence because he is so tenacious, which is fantastic. It's what you want. But he scores. He's got a great array of talent when it comes to scoring. Goals. He's good at scoring goals. What is he likened to? Well, to be honest, he's not blisteringly fast, but he's certainly not slow. He's not amazingly skillful, but he has got skills. His finishing is obviously fantastic, but for those who are old enough, well, I would say he's probably a bit like a Gianluca Vialli. But if that's not great for you, I'd say he's a bit like an Alan Shearer, but with a lot more pace. He's hard working, but he can't half finish, and he's got a bit of skill about him. He would be a fantastic signing for Manchester United, and he'd be sort of like if Zlatan was to leave, I think he'd be exactly what people would want. My concerns about it is he's an Italian. Got nothing against Italians, by the way. I do worry about Serie A compared to the Premier League. We've seen it with so many defenders, to be fair. Darmian the most latest, but we've even seen it this season with Pogba, how he's struggling with the pace. And as a striker, that's so important. I mean, you can get away with it with a midfielder like Pogba when you've got Zlatan scoring so many goals. But if he was the figure point of our team and he was struggling to adjust to this pace of the Premier League and we're not scoring goals, that can cause problems for Manchester United. Height-wise, he's just under 6 foot at 5'11" and a half. He is tenacious. He is strong. He's got good speed about him. He would be a good signing. But I think it's like, so I read this. I do read your comments. I was looking at the video yesterday before it went live, and you were all talking about Belotti because you have been on about him for a long time. And somebody said, forget the buyout clause. If we offered £30 million sterling to Torino, they'd bite our hands off. They haven't got a lot of money and they would take it. It's just whether we can do that or other clubs are going to do it. So Belotti, I think I wouldn't be unhappy with it. I'd have my slight concerns about whether he can adapt or not. But you know what? It was about time we mentioned him, and I thank you for that. He's not the one I want to talk about. I'll come to him in a moment. But Neymar just keeps getting mentioned, and I'll tell you why Neymar keeps getting mentioned, because it sells papers. I don't need to sell papers on the United Stand. The reason we're mentioning it is because despite what people think about it not being able to happen, and I would agree with that, I think he will become Barcelona's big star because Messi's coming towards the end, and at 25 he could have many more years. Where is there to go other than Barcelona? He really should be staying at Barcelona for the next 6 years, winning things as they do. But the Neymar to Manchester United rumours have been running for 3 years. It's common knowledge that Ed Woodward wants to sign Neymar. Now, whether Ed Woodward can pull that deal off or not, I don't know. He's not been successful for the last 3 years. But if there's a hint of this deal happening, he will be right at the front of the queue. And the problem is, it won't go away. It won't go away that there are these rumblings of Neymar not being totally happy at Barcelona. So it's worth a mention. Do I need to say any more than if Manchester United signed Neymar, all bets would be off? He is one of the best players in world football. I think he'd be fantastic in the Premier League. I know Brazilians have struggled as much as you could say Italians have struggled, but he's one of the, for me, he's one of the 3 best players in world football. and I think in a Manchester United shirt it would be exciting beyond belief, but I think he'd score a lot of goals in the Premier League, especially with the talent we've got. He's not coming into a one-man team, and I think, you know, you could fit him in again anywhere along the front three. So am I excited? I don't think it's going to happen, but it just keeps popping up, and I bring it in again because only yesterday somebody contacted us and said, Neymar to Manchester United, don't believe it's not going to happen. Well, you know what? I don't believe it's going to happen, but we've got to throw it out there because people keep going on about it. So that's Neymar. Mendy. Can he Mendy the problem at left back? Well, at the moment, if you'd said 3 weeks ago, I'd have said sign Mendy because it looked like Luke Shaw wasn't going to get a look in. But at the moment, Luke Shaw is getting a look in, and I would say most of us would want Luke Shaw to be that solution at left back for Manchester United. English, tall, strong, fast. I think he's got the lot, Luke Shaw, and I hope it can work out for him at Manchester United. Do we need another left back? You know what? I think we do. I think we do need another left back, which is why I've thrown Mendy in again. A couple of weeks ago I said, and for those who don't know who Mendy is, he plays for Monaco at left back. He's basically Antonio Valencia as a left back. He is powerful, he's a beast, he can get forward, he can assist, he can defend, he's 6'1", he's good in the air, same height as Luke Shaw actually. You know what, if Luke Shaw was leaving or Luke Shaw was out for a long time injured, this would be my #1 choice as left back. I think he would fit Manchester United like well and truly like an absolute glove. He's 23 in July, and I think he'd be perfect for Manchester United. I'd like us to sign him just to be competition for Luke Shaw, but Shaw and Mendy, if they both stay fit, they're too good to be reserved to one or the other. So if Luke Shaw's going to stay, I think we'll probably look elsewhere as a sort of backup left back, or maybe, you know, bring someone through like Borthwick Jackson. He did quite well under Van Gaal, but Mendy's worth mentioning because there are still question marks about whether Mourinho really does trust Luke Shaw to be his first choice left back, and Mourinho might quite fancy having a couple of left backs. And to be honest, Mendy, I like him a lot. I think what we need to do is clone Valencia at left back, and then we've solved our fullback problems for a long time. So I like him. I think, as I say, getting forward is very good, but he's combative and he's strong. And I think Mourinho, being the defensive coach he is, he's not a defensive coach, I'm not saying that, but the way he coaches his defenders, I think he'd take Mendy up to another level, and at the moment he's at a very, very, very good level. Just in relation, I'd forgotten to tell you about this. In relation to Mendy and Belotti and Neymar, they're all contracted. I know some of you like to know this. They're all contracted to 2021, which is 4 years off, obviously. So they would cost money. I mean, they're going to cost money anyway, but we'd have to pay good money to get them. It's not like they've got a year left on the contract like the likes of Sanchez have, and a couple of others, and Ozil and Ross Barkley, if you're interested in him. I'm not going to mention Ross Barkley today, though. The next one I want to talk about, here he is. This is the one for me, and I've got a couple of surprises for you, but this one, I want us to sign him. Shall I tell you who he is? Shall I tell you who? Have you guessed who it is yet? Oh God, don't say that. If anyone knows who that impression of was, apologies. I should know. Oh dear. Hirving Lozano plays in Mexico, plays for Mexico. Heavily linked to his last summer. It was a deal I wanted us to do, but unfortunately it was just paper talk. I think it was his dad or somebody came out and said that Manchester United were after him and he was going to sign for us after the Olympics, which he didn't. He's only 22 in the summer. He's actually come out in the last few days and said, I think he said, I like Spain and England, but if it's my choice, it's Manchester United. That's the club I want to play for. So we know the love affair we had with Chicharito, another Mexican at the club. I'd love us to get another Mexican at the club. I think whenever Mexico turn up at World Cups, they're always like the team that you don't expect, because they do play North America, not South America. They do really well. They've got a great work ethic. They do play good football. I'd love us to sign this lad. I really would. Last summer I said the same thing. I've not watched loads of him, but the little research I've done on him and the little bits I've seen about him, he's a speed demon. He's got a lot of pace. He can play left and right. He's good at assists, but he pops in with goals as well. And people can say, well, you've just said, would Belotti struggle in the Premier League? And of course, well, we don't know how Lozano would settle in the Premier League. But Chicharito didn't have much of a problem, did he? They are hard-working, they are grafters, they are used to putting their foot in and a tackle, and I think he would fit Manchester United really, really well. Unfortunately, we're not really linked to him. He's linking himself to Manchester United, but I would love it, and I just love the fact that he'd come out with the comments again, and hopefully somebody at Manchester United's ears might prick up and just go, let's go and get this lad, because you get him for a really good price as well. I can't remember what we paid for Chicharito when we signed him from Mexico, but it was peanuts compared to what we'll have to pay for somebody in Europe. And he, like I say, he is that exciting player. He's a speed demon, but he's very skillful as well. I mean, tentatively I say this, but in Mexico they've sort of christened him the Mexican George Best because he runs at people for fun. If he's half of that, we'll have him anyway. But I really do like the look of him. From what I've seen, definitely like the sound of him, and I just think it ticks a lot of boxes. Whether it'll happen, probably not, but one to keep an eye on, and it's one I mentioned last summer. Really would like him to come to Manchester United. Yuri Tielemans, very relevant in relation to Anderlecht. Spoke about him a little bit in the preview. He's 20 in May. I think his contract's till 2020. Height wise, I think he's about 5'9". Monaco is sniffing about. This is where I think we need to move on this, because if for anyone who's played FIFA, he's one of them players that you sign as a young player and he ends up being a world star. Potential is fantastic. We're going to see how good he is in the next couple of games when we play Anderlecht. If there's any sniff of him being good, I think Manchester United need to act, and I think they'd be mad not to act, because I think fans are educated, and there's already a lot of people been mentioning Tielemans for a good 18 months to come to United. I think if he has a good couple of games, then fans will be quite vocal about that, and if the club have their ear anywhere near to the ground, they'll be looking at this player and thinking, this is a star of the future. He's going to be playing Premier League opposition against us. We'll see what he's like. You know, he's been playing Belgian football. It's a big difference to the Premier League. So if he turns up in any way or sense or form, or has a good game against us in both them games, and I think Manchester United would be really, really, really silly not to move on him. So yeah, very, 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 very worth a mention. And we'll see how he goes. But out of those lot, if you're asking me, out of those, I'd like Mendy. I would. As much as I love Luke Shaw, I would like to sign Mendy. I just don't know whether we would have them both. And my priority has got to be Luke Shaw. Lozano excites me. Unfortunately, I just don't think we'll do anything about it. But Lozano excites me. Belotti is interesting. I think we'd get him for a good price. I don't think we'd have to pay £70 million for him. And the Neymar one just won't go away. It's not coming from us, but it is coming from others. So it's interesting. A few other players I wanted to talk to you about. I think there were one is worth revisiting, and a couple of them are around the De Gea problems, which seem to be raising their head again. Jordan Pickford at Sunderland. Obviously, we played them at the weekend. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. I've been impressed with him this season, but really did watch him on Sunday. Good agility, very strong. What I wanted to watch was to see how he commands his back four for a young lad, and he does it very, very well. 6'1". Just turned 23, contracted till 2020, probably going to get relegated with Sunderland, probably get him for about £10 million. As an outside bet for a replacement for De Gea, I think he'd be a good shout. And you know what, if we did sign a Pickford, I think we're obviously going to keep Romero. It might be not be a bad idea for Mourinho, instead of going for the Donnarumma or the Oblak, if he can't get them, get Pickford in and sort of say to them both in the summer, I'm not decided who my number one is. Play it out amongst the two of you and see who comes out on top. Another one, Draughty Devil wanted me to mention this one. Jack Butland, obviously been out for a lot of the season with Stoke. A good young keeper. I think he's a year older than Pickford. He's 6'5". Surprisingly, I think he's contracted till about 2021, but he's a very good keeper. Does his lack of game time this season concern us? Well, not really. I think he was doing great things before. But again, I think he sort of fits in with that Jordan Pickford thing, that if we brought him in, I think you would really... The standard they're at the moment, they're not De Gea's. I mean, I think the closest to De Gea in European football is probably Oblak at Atletico Madrid. And then if you want to go for a young potential De Gea, Donnarumma, obviously at AC Milan. But if you've got a Pickford or a Butland, you're basically saying it's between you and Romero. Battle it out and see what can happen there. But it's interesting. The De Gea thing, I just can't see stopping, and I don't think we'll know for sure. I think I think if he is going to go, it's going to start building up at some point. It's tentatively mentioned at the moment, but it's not building up as much as I suspected. So maybe there is hope, but my head says that he's going to go. My heart wants him to stay, obviously, but my head says that he will go. Brozovic at Inter. Remember Mourinho went to watch Croatia play Ukraine a few weeks ago in the international break. There was talk of it being Perisic, who we've mentioned a lot as a winger that could come in. I would hope that... I don't mind Perisic, and I think he ticks the box of not being a Galactico. I think he's about 28, strong, hard-working, skillful, fast. Good signing, but it makes you worry about Martial, but he's a specialist left-sided player, so... maybe Martial could move into other areas. But a lot of people think it was maybe Brozovic, who also plays for Inter. He's 24. I don't know. I mention him because, again, it's somebody else has mentioned him to us that's who Mourinho was watching. And we'd sort of heard that before as well. But he's got a good shot on him. He's skillful. He's quite quick. But physically, he's not great. And he's not great in the air. So, in the Premier League, where are we going to play him? Because if... He's not a number 10, he's more of a box-to-box with the onus on creativity. Well, Herrera can do a lot of those things, but Herrera's quite tenacious. So I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I just don't know where he sort of fits the Mourinho sort of player, really, because we've seen how much he loves height and physicality with Fellaini, who can't even play football. So Brozovic can't tackle really well. He's not great in the air. He's a good footballer, but maybe Mourinho's seen some sort of potential in what he can bring out of him. I don't know. Draughty wanted me to mention this one. He wanted me to mention a few, but I said I would mention this one. 18-year-old, currently playing for Everton, Tom Davies. He's contracted till 2022. He's 5'11". He's doing very well for Everton at the moment. And I think the fact that he's 18, he only turns 19 in June, he's doing good things. I don't think we'll be signing him at Manchester United. I think he'll be at Everton next season. I'd put a lot of money on him being at Everton next season, but he's a potentially good player of the future. I think people are crying out for the next sort of Roy Keane leader type midfielder, and from the limited games I've seen him, he has got that tenacity and ability to go and do it potentially. But for me, if we're going to Everton, I think there's two players that I'd be looking at. Gay, who's 28, I think, and fantastic in every game I've seen him. And Ross Barkley's only got a year left on his contract. And I know people are saying we don't want Ross Barkley, but there's something about him that I think if Mourinho got hold of him, he could turn him into a very, very good midfielder. So there we go. We sort of moved away towards the end of players that probably aren't realistic, but the Lozano one's the one that excites me the most. But finally, we've spoken about Belotti. I don't want to do it, but I keep nearly saying Balotelli. I don't want to say Balotelli for obvious reasons. But give us your thoughts. Give us your thoughts. Lots of people spoken about on the show today, and we're happy to keep doing this. We're going to try and do Red Rumours more regularly in this studio and go through some of the players. But the Lozano one, I wanted to put it in there because I liked him a lot from last summer, and I suspect a lot of you wouldn't have been aware of his comments over the last few days about openly saying that he'd love to come to Manchester United. He's a very exciting player. I really hope we do get linked to him and we do that deal, because I've wanted him to come to the club for since last summer now, and I just think he's really exciting. I'd love us to get a Mexican player. We're talking about Hernandez coming back, and I wouldn't be opposed to that, but this lad's the next big thing from Mexico. I'd love it if we signed him. Belotti's interesting. Neymar, just don't believe Neymar's coming to Manchester United. I think the odds are against it, but what I would say is, from what we're sort of been hearing consistently, Woodward wants him, and don't be surprised if we did get him, because United can do anything. Mendy's interesting. Tielemans, keep your eye on him for the next couple of days. Yeah, get commenting below if you think there's anybody else we need to be talking about. Please do drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed the content. I know a lot of you do like the transfer talk, and we're sort of moving through the gears towards it, but I think it's a nice time at the moment as we approach the summer. It is a few weeks away, and we should be focusing on games as we are, but there's always the opportunity to start thinking about the summer. And I think a lot of us are thinking, who will we sign this summer? We know we're going to be signing players. Eric Bailly came out of nowhere last year. I'm pretty sure there'll be a player like that this year. So I suppose we're all trying to sort of guess around who those players might be, which I find quite exciting. I know what, some people play lip service to transfers. They've said, I watch the content and they'll go, I hate the transfers, but then they start doing it because they know everybody likes it. We've always been passionate about it since the start of the United Standard. We feed off your passions. I like transfer talk. I don't want Manchester United to become a club that sells 11 players and buys 11 players every summer. But I like to know what's going on in the world of football. I like to know about European football. I like to know about footballers. And, I love talking about it. So we won't stop doing it. So drop us a like, get involved. And most importantly, give us your comments below. And remember, tomorrow is the watch along against Anderlecht. And we'll be live with the team news. So join us for that. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll speak to you all very soon.